Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode from The Good Home. We're happy to have you with us today, and we hope you enjoy our episode. Hello, Dr. Muhammad, how are you?
I'm doing good, Dana. I'm so excited actually to talk about a unique topic. So usually we really choose a very important topic which touches relative to the family.
Yeah, and we try to pick topics that not everyone talks about but are extremely important.
Yes.
Especially like today's topic,
Today
I think is very important.
Yes, today we're going to talk about mental illnesses.
Yes.
Since it's really increasing, Dana, about this topic is the mental illnesses is increasing among the society. And this is why we have to be really careful. What are the signs and symptoms for any person who has a mental illness?
And we're not just going to touch on what is mental illness and how to deal with it as a person.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how does mental illness affect people around the person who is suffering.
Exactly.
And how can people around the person, like whether it's the partner, whether it's the parents, whether it's the siblings, how can they help a person in family that they identified as person with difficulties mentally?
Yes, and what is the role of the partner to help their partner if they have a mental illness, as well as when we should seek a medical help from the right person.
So today we will learn about where to seek help from.
Exactly.
What areas in Kuwait or what places in Kuwait are available for people to go to if they have someone in the family suffering, and what are the signs that we see in a person to know if they're suffering from mental
because
illness.
if we neglect this problem, Dana, it could have a lot of complication.
Absolutely.
Which hopefully not we could lead to it. Absolutely. But probably some of the suicide could actually one of the complication for this mental illness.
And I want to also learn, when do we stop? Because sometimes we tend too much to a person with mental illness. Like let's say someone in the family that has, I can't even say it, can you say it, doctor? I can't even say
There is
that.
a lot of actually mental illnesses.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah.
See, I said it. Or OCD, or it could be
depression.
Bipolar, depression,
and anxiety.
Alzheimer.
Yes.
Some of these mental illnesses are heavy, and for someone to tend to them is quite heavy on the person that's helping. So it's nice to learn some tips and tools from our guest today.
Yeah, and usually actually we have a special guest that we talk about this topic as usual.
Absolutely. So dear viewers, today our guest is going to be Dr. Hussein Al-Shatti, a psychiatry specialist who is going to help us learn more about this topic right after watching this report together.
Strong families communicate well about good and bad things. They celebrate together when times are good and talk about problems when times are tough. This creates a safe place for children and share difficult feelings like embarrassment, confusion, or shame. And it strengthens family members' relationships with each other. Looking after yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally is good for you and gives you more energy to build a strong personality. When one spouse facing mental problems, the other partner should support and takes care of the other partner until he passes this tough time and gets well. For parents with partners, looking after your relationship can help you both get the most out of being parents and partners.
And we are back, dear viewers, in the main part of The Good Home with our esteemed guest, Dr. Hussein Shatti. He's a psychiatry specialist. We are glad to have you, Dr. Hussein, talking about a very important topic as usual.
Welcome, Dr. Hussein. We're happy to have you with us today. We'll be talking today about mental illness, and especially mental illness among couples. If one of the two sides is affected by mental illness, and how should the other person be or react to it? So my first question to dig into the topic is, there are so many different kinds of mental illnesses, but what are some common signs that we know or that we can see in a person to know that they have some mental illness?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me and talk about such interesting topic, because in the past we always talk about the mental illness and the patient themselves, but we don't talk that much about those people around the patients, the caregivers, the partners, children, parents, and so on. So if you have someone who has a mental illness in the house, so this is a good question, how we know that the patient or someone in our house who has a mental illness.
Exactly.
Mental illness, just like any other organic illness, like diabetes, hypertension, but the difference is that those diseases, they have physical symptoms,
Correct.
pain, headache, and so on. So,
Correct.
but the issue with mental illness, there are, behavioral aspects. With, like, for example, psychotic, some patients, they imagine stuff, they see stuff, or they act in a bizarre way. So the first sign is acting in a bizarre way that is not socially acceptable. And when I say socially acceptable, because there are some behaviors that from one culture to another can be accepted. But it is something in a culture, in a set of culture, that considered as bizarre, unexpected, and also in a very extreme way. So this might be a sign there's something going on.
Okay.
Of course, it depends from one disease to another. Like, for example, depression, anxiety, it might be different than something extreme like someone who is psychotic, like schizophrenia or so. It might be something which is very clear and very dramatic. So, yeah.
So we're not talking about the occasional mood swings, we're talking about something that's happening.
Absolutely,
Constant.
absolutely, yeah. Something that's constantly happening on daily basis for a prolonged period of time.
So, Dr. Hussein, what about as a partner, what they should do if they see this sign of their wife or husband see this, what they could do?
Yes, so the first thing that they should do is acknowledge that they have an issue, and support them with taking a decision to see a mental health professional. Just like if you see someone in your family member who's having symptoms, for example, again, symptom of diabetes. I always go back and forth with diabetes because it's very common and very relatable. So if you know someone in your family member, your partner who has symptoms of diabetes, you encourage them that, of course, you have these symptoms, let's check. Having a regular checkup is something that we encourage everyone to do, healthy or unhealthy people. The same thing with mental illness. There is no problem to have a regular checkup. There's no problem if you see some signs and you need something, let's go to a mental health clinic. And nowadays, alhamdulillah, in Kuwait, more than 48 clinics in primary health care clinics, they have mental health clinics. So it's everywhere in Kuwait. So it's very easy to go and very easy to check for such services. And you can see also in these clinics either a trained psychiatrist or a trained family physician who, after finishing the board, specialized in mental health care. So it is available. So there's no problem to go and to check. You will not have a file in mental health hospital. I know this is like a big taboo in our community.
People really care about that so
absolutely,
much.
Absolutely. Although this is a different topic, we can't talk about it in different time. But you will not have a file. You'll just have a checkup if there's something, and if it's something treated as a first line, they are very capable in treating such diseases in the first line. Of course, I'm not talking something extreme, but something can be treated and can be checked out.
That's why I like these episodes, because they shed the light on what's available to people. And I think it's important that they know that there are many options. But you said something about culturally, I know we're not getting into that, but in general, not every household is used to the idea of seeking help for mental illness. And a lot of times they may feel, the person that you're telling them, okay, you need help, let's get help, they may be defensive, or they may feel that you're attacking them, or they may feel that there's nothing wrong with them. So what should the partner do in case the other person refuses to get help?
So here we have to be sure about something, that are these symptoms dangerous? So this is the number one, the safety netting. If these symptoms are dangerous for the person themselves or for the other people, like someone who's thinking about ending their lives, for example.
Suicidal,
or
yeah.
Absolutely,
Oh, wow.
or someone who are clearly thinking about harming other people. In these matters, so those patients, they don't have the capacity, and this is a dangerous situation, so we encourage people like the caregivers and so other partners to call for help, like the ambulance or so, and they can be taking care of those patients to the casualty center, either in any hospital or the casualty center in Kuwait Center for Mental Health. They can be checked there and they can see if there's an issue going on. So this is an extreme issue we are talking about. But let's say something else. Let's say someone, for example, suffering from depression. And that patient, you know, they don't think that they have an issue, they don't think they have a problem. So for me as a partner, what should I do in that case?
Exactly.
Support them.
Yeah.
Now, when I say support, just showing them that you are there, showing them that what they are suffering from is real, and you are here if they want to talk about it, and you can give them their space and just show them that that's their own space, but you are here to support them. We always talk about like the elastic band, you know. Sometimes they say the further they go, the tighter it gets, but actually the further they go apart for the elastic band, at the end, they will go back.
They
So
will
this
relax, yeah.
absolutely, so this might strengthen their relationship. If I give them some space to think about it and telling them I am here, whatever you'd like to talk about, just come and talk about. Have a weekly session with your partner. This is something we
Can
encourage.
heal together.
Absolutely, this is something we encourage the couples. One of the things like the couple counseling they do, they have like a weekly session. You and your partner sit down. Know what? Let's talk about the last week. What has been done? Anything that happened that you think that I would like to change? Something that you happen that happened that you did that I think we might modify it a little bit. So you can talk about these things. You can talk clearly about these things very openly, and the way you talk about it makes a huge difference. If you talk with someone about something very serious in a tone that showing that you're actually understanding, curious about
Sympathy,
knowing,
showing this sympathy.
absolutely, sympathy and empathy and actually active listening.
Yeah.
Actually listening.
Actually
Exactly.
listening, active listening, which
Not
is a
holding my
skill, to be
phone and
honest.
listening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And active listening is not just listening and hearing, but actually listening and contemplating what the other person
Repeating what they
is
said,
saying
make
and
sure.
repeating and showing that what you heard is translated very well in your mind.
Exactly.
All of these will strengthen the relationship and will make it very easy to the other, to your partner to open up more and more. And maybe down the line thinking, you know what, maybe I need to check on myself and see if something to be done for this issue that I'm having.
So Dr. Hussein, you mentioned that the role of the partner. What about the role of the family member, like children, mother-in-law, friends? How important is that?
So now it depends on the family dynamics.
Okay.
So some families, they might be living together like nuclear family, and all the family members are there. This might be a bit tricky, especially in our country, in our culture, because we might think, you know, this is not the stigma about the psychiatry and about all the mental health issues. This might be, you know, an issue. So we always tell the patient who is your closest person in the house.
Correct.
We need to talk to that person. We need to explain your disease to that person and showing that person like, you know what, this is what's happening with this patient, 1, 2, 3, you have any questions, anything, and all of that. And all of this happening with like a multidisciplinary team, sitting with the patient, with the family member, the closest one.
Correct.
Why we are saying this? Because we want the strongest support system. Because after that, some people might not understand the situation, might not be as supportive. But knowing in your family that you have at least one strongly supportive system there, it makes a huge difference. So what we ask from the patient is, you understand your disease,
Correct.
you know that you have a disease, you know that it's treatable by such and such, and you have someone who supports you doing so, this is more than enough. And later on, if you accept it, maybe other people might accept or might not. This is what happens in real life.
Exactly. So this is a very important role for partner to really support their partner, right?
Absolutely.
And also to know when to seek for help, like you said, like it's nice to have that in your partner, and in a way they become your own therapist and they help you, but at one point it could also get draining for the person that's trying to help.
Yeah.
So what boundaries, help the ones you love, but what boundaries should you be placing to not hurt yourself in return and to be able to keep that safe distance?
At what limit you mean?
Yeah, this is very interesting because I had a patient who suffered from the same issue actually. Someone who came to my clinic suffering from mild to moderate and later on became severe depression because of the situation at house. She is a caregiver for her husband suffering from dementia, and she suffered from depression because of that, because she gave too much to that person. And because of that situation, because that patient who had dementia, they cannot appreciate what she is doing, which is naturally happening. But
it is.
Absolutely.
Out of their hands.
You can understand this and you can go with it like one time, 1 day, 2 days.
So
but
draining.
after a while, it's very draining. You have to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week, every day, every hour to that patient and all the time.
Such a hard task.
It is, and it's draining. So we find out that this patient is actually suffering from burnout. Burnout is something that people who suffer from it usually suffer from burnout related to work. But we see that people suffer from burnout sometimes related to caregivers. And this is something that's happening, especially after the corona pandemic and all the lockdowns. We've seen much more of this actually. So this is a serious issue. So we always tell the caregivers, take a step back. I understand that socially, culturally, you have to give everything. But sometimes it's taking a toll on you. Sometimes less is more. Take care of yourself so you can take care of other people. Remember, you are in an airplane. If there's a low pressure, what do? The mask, you put it for yourself first, then if there's a child, not the child first. Because if you take care of yourself, you can take care of other people. It is not selfish. Take a step back, take a break. It is fine because you need that break. You deserve that break to take another day and to go on and go on.
Perfect. This is a very interesting analogy that Dr. Hussein gave us, and really the right amount of effort that we have to give to our partner is very important. Dr. Hussein, we're going to talk more about mental illness, but we have a short break. So dear viewers, we're going to have a short break and we're going to continue our episode, so please stay tuned.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We have with us Dr. Hussein Al-Shatti. We're talking about a very important and interesting topic. We're talking about mental health and people who are suffering from mental health and how can we help them as family members. You told us how to find out or what are some of the signs that can tell us that someone has mental health issues. But what are some of the common mental health sicknesses that you see through your career that families in Kuwait suffer from?
So this is an interesting topic because the mental health issue, although sometimes they are the same thing. Let's take, for example, depression. Depression in adults might present differently than geriatric, might be presented differently than pediatric, small age group. And this is normal things happen because those patients, the young patients, they don't know how to express their emotions, so they might express their depression by being, for example, aggressive, agitated. In the scholar level, you might see decline in their
spaced out also.
Absolutely spaced out. Delinquency. They might start like smoking. They might start, cut classes and so on. So all of these might give us an idea. There's something might be going on, because when we see something like this, the first thing we think, oh yeah, my child is becoming a delinquent. I need to do this. I need to be firm. But there might be a deeper level to it. Might be that child actually anxious, or might be depressed, but they are showing their depression and anxiety in a different way. And why I'm talking about the adolescents or the children, because after the corona pandemic, especially with the huge change that happened, happened, the online, and after the online there's like the semi-online, and then the some people might went back to school, not all of people.
Draining.
Nowadays everybody's going to schools, and so because of change, sometimes it's difficult on us as human beings to adapt to change. And imagine the children, although they are resilient, but also absolutely. Oh yeah, this is a huge topic about worrying and the genetic factor that goes with the anxiety and all of that. So we've seen anxious children and we see depressed children, and might be because of adaptation problem, the corona pandemic and all of that. So they might act out in a different way. They don't know how to socialize. They don't know how to express their emotions. And they might express their depression and anxiety in that way.
Okay.
Now, when we go to the adolescents, we go to the adults,
Adults.
they have the typical presentation for example, depression and anxiety, like social isolation, insomnia, feeling lack of concentration, irritability, and being agitated, loss of appetite or increased appetite. As you can see, all of these symptoms, I did not say sadness, which is something what we expect from someone who's depressed. So this gives you an idea that depression is actually not just feeling sad. Feeling sad is just an emotion, but depression is something greater. Absolutely.
Is it safe to say that it's easier to spot it on kids than on another adult? Because they're better at hiding it, or
it's difficult because sometimes as parents, when we want to see our children, we cannot see that they are depressed or anxious. We see what they are doing as their behavior. It's like they say, like psychiatrists, you cannot treat your family member because of the bias that naturally happens. You cannot pick up these things.
Give them excuses.
Absolutely. So it's kind of difficult, but I always tell the parents, if you find something abnormal, like a huge change, a sudden shift, keep an eye on your child, see what's going on, try to talk to your child. Something is bothering them, try to have a time frame. Like I know a patient who started vomiting and abdominal pain as soon as the school started. And we discovered that this is a somatization, which is having a physical symptoms as a reaction to their anxiety. They don't want to go to school, they are anxious, so they express that by somatization and vomiting. And vomiting, you cannot actually, fake it. It's not like coughing or sometimes some people who can fake a cry. But vomiting, you cannot fake that, which gives you an idea that this is a genuine physical symptom.
It's not always a flu or something wrong
absolutely,
with the child.
Absolutely.
Could be mental,
So we talked about children, adults, now the geriatric. The geriatric is mainly isolation, bouts of crying. Always they have physical pain that is not explained by their general health. Passive death wishes, we call. I know the name is scary, but passive death wishes is something we encountered every day, especially in Arabic culture. If you find an elderly and she's like, I hope
extremely pessimistic.
I hope I go out and get hit by a car. I hope. And when you talk to her, like, Mom, when you say that, it's like, no, it's just something that I'm used to. So this is not a passive death wish. This is just a cultural thing that we know. But I'm talking about something that you find it abnormal. With when you see your parents, something going on, like they are isolated for a period of time, not eating, bouts of crying, physical pain every time, always dependent on other. They don't enjoy having the social gathering.
No more interest in life.
Absolutely. So this might give you an idea. They might be depressed, they might be anxious. And we know that there's a huge association between mental health issues, especially depression, with the chronic diseases like diabetes, stroke, and all of that. There's a huge association between those
cancer
two.
as well.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Hussein, out of curiosity, mental illnesses could be preventable. Could we prevent mental illnesses?
Oh, this is like the new future thing that now all the Congress and the conferences they talk about, because mental illness, the risk of having mental illness, there's no one risk. It's always like a collective of risk. There is genetic factor, which is something we cannot control, and there is the environmental factor. Now, the environmental factor, first of all, the education of the parents. Now, when I'm saying education of parents, I'm not saying educate everyone, but understanding the symptoms. Like, for example, fear, which is something normal that every child is having. Fear of darkness, At that age, the age of 3, 4, when the child is afraid of darkness, how the parents are understanding that symptom or that thing and how do they approach it might be either a trigger to have a phobia or might be protective mechanism for the child. So this is what we mean by when saying educating the parent or parent education. So understanding psychological diseases, educating parents,
And this is your role, doctor, that you're educated.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's very
This is one of the things, like these shows and the awareness campaigns that we try to do, because we try to show other people, we show everyone that mental illness is something real, it's something organic, biological. Around the 20 to 25% of any community, any population in the world.
It's a big number.
It is a big number. They have a mental health issue. Now, mental health issue, I don't mean like 25% of all the community, they are psychotic. But it's like ranging from either something very simple like minimal depression, minimal anxiety, stress or something, to something very extreme. So as you can see, like 20 to 25%, it's a huge number. So it is very common. It is very, we can like prevent it, like building resilience, teaching children how to build resilience, how to be emotionally intelligent, understanding your emotion, how to deal with it, and how to react with your emotions. And this is not just our job, but also the job of the psychologist, how to approach these things.
It is a very serious matter. I was reading once that it's one of the top causes for death, like mental illness.
Yeah, and especially among adolescents, I think the suicide is one of the leading causes of death in adolescents, especially in North America.
If we see any signs, we need to take it seriously, and the younger they are, the better. I think they're easier to help when they're younger. This has been very helpful. You've shared a lot of information, and I think everyone that's watching today have learned something important. They can all seek help, and it's available everywhere. So please do if you need it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a wonderful episode. Appreciate having you.
Thank you for inviting me for talking about this.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein.
Dear viewers, we've reached the end of our interview. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Dear viewers, we have a report that we prepared for you. We hope you enjoy it. Let's watch it together.
In today's report, we introduce you a place that you can visit with your family during summer. Sultanate of Oman is an amazing destination to be visited. The capital Muscat is the most popular city for most of the people, but it only contains a small part of what makes Oman a great destination. Many other places in Oman are lovely too, starting by Wadi Bani Khalid, which maintains water landscape throughout the year. Fjords of Musandam is a place where you can enjoy riding traditional Omani boats. Wahiba Sands is a lovely experience of living desert's life and feel the power of desert. Jebel Shams, the highest mountain in Oman with a great view and mountains adventures. And with many wonderful waterfalls, Salalah is still the most beautiful landscape where you can spend days in the charming nature.
Unfortunately, dear viewers, we're reaching the end of our episode today. It was a very interesting episode. We've learned so much.
Yes,
What did you think of our episode?
It's actually, Dana, we talk about the mental illnesses and how much it's very important to see the symptoms of the sign in any partner of us that they have, if they have this sign of symptoms, because we have to really try to solve the problem at the beginning as much as we could, because we don't want to really lead this problem to a lot of complication in the future.
So the sooner we seek the help, the better.
Yes.
If you see any signs, like what I've learned, that whether it's a child or whether it's an adult around you, if you see any signs that are abnormal,
Yeah.
and that they've changed in their habits,
Yeah.
whether they're isolating or whether they're acting up to get attention or whether they're neglecting themselves
Or
whether
changing
they're
their appetite,
Yeah.
they don't eat for a
not
long time.
sleeping, then it means it's time for family talks.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with talks in the family regularly, and then if that doesn't help or you reach a stage where you feel like you need to take it to the next level, then seek help and get a therapist to look at the person that you care
Exactly.
about, because experts will give you the advice you need and the tools you need
Perfect.
to deal with what you have at hand.
And the role, or the essential role for the partner, as well as this is our goal, Dana, is we tried as much as we could to really educate ourselves, as well as to educate our dear viewers about mental illnesses and a lot of other problems that we face in our home. And this is why our goal is to educate you dear viewers, how to solve it. And that's why we usually have esteemed guests talking about this kind of problem.
We hope our viewers learned a thing or two today if they are facing these issues. Unfortunately, big percentage are, and that's fine and that's okay. Let's just make it easy on us and know that there is help out there. There are specialists that are available to us, and there's nothing wrong or something to be ashamed of to reach help.
And hopefully this cases are gonna decrease in the future. So dear viewers, we're gonna see you next week with different episode as well as different guests. So please take care of each other.
Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.